What's up, guys? It's Perv here with another episode of Perv Answers Emails. So, today, Glittering Invite 713, I like your name, asks, hello, I want to start PE, but I don't want to do it for my entire life. I want to reach my goal size and completely stop. Do I lose all my gains or just some? What is the percentage I keep? Well, Glittering Invite, that's a great question. Here's the answer. There is no solid answer. Personally, and I went over this in my last podcast with Dr. Hink. Personally, I stopped PE completely a little more than a year ago, and I lost a pretty significant amount of size. Now, what I consider a significant amount of size wouldn't necessarily be terrible if you convert it to a percentage. If you convert it to a percentage, it's much less than like 10%. And for some people that may seem, pretty horrifying, but really and truly, it's actually not that much. It's really not that much. However, what I lost was mostly this temporary size that I had gained from doing a really big sort of burst of PE. So I hadn't really given the tissues much time to actually remodel themselves. It was more like temporary gains that I had done just from a probably 6-month long spurt of just getting back into PE and sort of doing everything ideally, kind of optimally, kind of like the way that I like coach my clients. Like I want to get the best gains as fast as possible. However, I didn't do any maintenance work whatsoever. I ended up landing myself in the hospital for a pretty severe kind of issue, and if you listen to the podcast to go a little bit more in detail about this, but I didn't get an erection for like a month or like 5 weeks, and so I do sometimes wonder if that played a part in me sort of shrinking my size. That being said, if we have hard and fast rules about it, here are the hard and fast rules. The longer that you do PE and the longer that you stay near your goal size, the more likely that you are to actually retain most of, if not all of, that size. So these guys that have really incredible results and they gain an inch in 5 months, that's awesome. You are going to lose the overwhelming majority of that. And that is because what you've done is you've created space in the tissue. Okay, but your tissues have not actually remodeled themselves. So what you're seeing is a lot of edema. You're seeing increased blood flow, and all of those things are really good things. However, what you haven't actually done is you haven't had time to, what the community uses as a phrase is cement. You haven't had a time to cement those gains. And cementing your gains is really just a colloquialism, just a slang term for tissue remodeling. And so tissue remodeling has begun to take place. However, it hasn't actually caught up to the point where your penis is, sort of in the pump or in the extender. So here's my recommendation to you, Mr. Glitter. Get to your goal size and spend another 6 months just doing maintenance work to stay at that size, okay? The studies that they did on like the Phallosan and the Penny Master found that most of the results that people experienced outside of like the first year tended to stay. And that's because outside of that time frame, you've got a lot of the tissue remodeling actually happening. You've got a lot of those newbie gains kind of out of the way. Okay, so it's not like this siren song kind of thing of like, oh man, I grabbed an inch and now I'm just gonna dip. Well, it's like, well, if you do that, you're probably gonna lose most, if not all, of that size, because what you did was you created space, you improved EQ, and you got some edema. And edema gets a bad rap. It's really not, we shouldn't like demonize that word too much, because a lot of what we see early on in PE is actually edema. Anyways, that's for another video. My point is, you basically need to do some kind of maintenance, okay? You need to do some kind of maintenance for like 6 months. Now, do you need to do PE for the rest of your life? No, you don't need to do PE for the rest of your life. Should you do PE for the rest of your life? in a sense, I'm inclined to say you should, at the very least, probably use a pump for the rest of your life to some degree. Maybe even like just 2 or 3 times a week for like 30 minutes. I don't think it's really necessary to, use it for the rest of your life to maintain your gains. I just think that using a pump for the rest of your life is probably just going to be the best way to keep yourself in peak sexual performance. Honestly, I mean, we have so much data to show the older we get, the less erections that we have, the smaller our member becomes, just because our tissues adapt to the state that they most frequently inhabit. And that means that if you're getting erections all the time, your penis gets used to being real big and nice and fluffy and heavy. Everybody wants a big, heavy, fluffy peen, you know what I'm saying? So if you want that, probably get into the habit of being a lifelong pumping, participant. So that's my recommendation to you, Mr. Glitter, is that get into your PE, get to your goal. Spend the next 6 months staying at your goal. Just do as little as necessary to stay at your goal, okay? Don't try to push your work in the extender. Don't try and push your work in the pump. Just try to make sure that you are staying the exact same size for about 6 months. And then probably commit yourself to using a pump, I'll say at a minimum once or twice a week, just for health. Now, again, that's just for health. Mr. Glitter, if you just want to like get your PE gains and then dip, that's perfectly fine. Again, if you just do maintenance work for like 6 months, you're probably good to go. Will you lose some size at that point? Yes, probably, because you're still experiencing some level of edema. But will you lose a majority of your gains or a significant amount? No, absolutely not. So that's all I've got for you guys today. For all of your PE purchases and coaching consultation inquiries, please visit massivenovelties.com. Like and subscribe, do all that YouTube crap. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think.